All right, let's talk about drag factor here and how to use it more effectively with our training, and even start to think about the drag factor as a variable, just like cadence or volume or repetitions or intensity when we're constructing a workout or even recording that workout. And the reason I want to touch on this is because I think in the sport of rowing that we get into this mindset of just picking a drag setting that is appropriate for us and sticking with it, whether we're doing a workout that is an aerobic workout or an anaerobic workout or racing. We're generally going to pick a damper setting, a drag factor, and stay with that. And I think that that is a big error. And I think we're kind of lulled into that habit because we are training to be fast on the water. And when you're on the water, you're not able to change the resistance in a live setting. And so changing the resistance of the water would involve changing the length of the oars, changing where the button is on the oar, changing what the spread or span is or where the pin is in your rigging. And all those are going to take time. It's going to take a committed session on land in order to make those adjustments. Whereas when we are on land and we're training on the indoor rower, we can make those changes simply by raising or lowering the damper setting on your Concept 2 or Row Perfect or similar machine, and but we don't take advantage of that, and it is going to be a great benefit to your training to start to think about that damper in a new way, to think of it almost like gearing on a bicycle, where if you are going for a long ride on a bicycle or at least or even a shorter ride in varied terrain, you are going to be regularly changing the gears on that bike to accommodate the incline that you're working with and the intensity that you want to be approaching that. And if you're not changing gears a lot on a long bike ride, you're doing it wrong. So look into that separately. But we want to think about the gearing in a different context than rowing in terms of when you're approaching a workout, certainly if you're approaching an aerobic workout, that there are different drag factors that are going to produce a more positive neuromuscular effect for you, or even different neuromuscular effects for you based on what your goal is. And so, in particular, we want to explore this idea that it is not a linear relationship between intensity and cadence and the speed of the drive that you're using from training intensities of a steady state, for example, or a racing intensity. And so if we want to build on that example and say for a steady state, you may have someone rowing a 158 split at an 18 stroke rate, and their racing split is going to be, let's say, 138 at a 36 stroke rate. Then what's important in rowing is the speed of the leg drive, and the speed of the leg drive is important because we're training to perform on the water. And when you're on the water, the boat is going to be moving at a certain speed, and you're going to be using the water as your point of leverage. And that's a challenging aspect in the sport because water is a liquid, and also just in general of using your oar to lever against something that is itself in motion is one of the big challenges of being an effective rower on the water. And so you need to have a certain leg speed on that drive going down, and a popular number that will pop up is about 0.7 seconds for the leg drive, that it should be taking zero point 0.7 seconds for you to move from the connection to the moment of the release. And so let's take that as a standard and say, okay, let's give it that zero point 0.7 as the ideal. Well, as you move down, if you're into a training session and you're doing an aerobic row, and that stroke rate is going to be around an 18, and in our example we were at about a 158 split, Well, if you're using the damper setting at that steady state that you were using at the race pace, the what's going to happen is that your drive speed is going to be elongated. And so that resistance is going to be effective at that race pace, but when you're bringing it down, if you were to use the same drive speed of that zero point 0.7 seconds in that steady state at an 18 with that same resistance, then what's going to happen is that your split is going to be lower than that 158. Let's say it's a 154. And I'll note that these numbers are totally arbitrary. They're just meant as a comparison. But the fact is that if you're using that same damper setting at the 18 stroke rate and that same drive speed that you were having in a race, then you're going to be producing a split that's faster than what your U2, your category 6, your steady state should be. And let's say we can't sustain that 154 for the 60-minute session that we're trying to produce with our steady state workout. So the adaptation that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to slow that leg drive in order to hit the split that you need at the stroke rate that we want for that energy zone. And you don't want to do that. And so the neuromuscular component of training is incredibly important in rowing, and it's very important to constantly be training the leg speed that you're going to need in a race environment. And so in your physiological adaptations, and so if you're doing a utilization 2, your goal is to increase the oxygen utilization of your body, or more specifically to increase the amount of capillary beds in your circulatory system so that more oxygen is getting delivered to your blood. And that's going to happen no matter what you're doing. If you're working in that aerobic state and if you're keeping that heart rate up, all right, that aerobic training effect is going to happen. Now, it's going to be important to train your aerobic development whenever possible in the sports that you're trying to compete at, because the adaptations in those capillary beds is going to happen at the site of the muscles that are being used, or particularly in those sites. And that's not to say that cross training is not good, because cross training has a lot of other effectiveness, but that's not to say that cross training is more effective than what your training in that sport specific motion would have. But stepping back into that neuromuscular component, that regardless of what you're doing for your steady state, you're going to be improving your aerobic capacity. But you're not necessarily training your brain to fire the muscles at the speed that you need to perform well on the water. And that's when you're going to get a lot of people that can perform well on the water, or I reverse that. You're going to get a lot of people that can perform well on the erg, but they're not going to translate that to the water. And so you're going to have those bigger scores, and they're just not winning their sea races. And that's because they're able to produce a lot of power physiologically, and they're strong, but their legs aren't quick enough, or their technique isn't sharp enough to bring that speed onto the water. And that's where the topic of this discussion is going to come in, is that you can use your damper setting to ensure that you're constantly training a quick leg action, a quick muscle action for your rowing strokes, so that whatever you are doing on the erg is transferring to the water. And you'll start to get in a situation that I experienced a lot with my own coaching, is that you'll have a lot of boats that are not as strong in the erg as their competition, but they're much more successful on the water because the ergs that they're producing are translating directly to the water, while that competition might have stronger ergs, but they're transferring a lower percentage of that speed onto the water, and that percentage happens to fall below what a higher percentage of those less powerful athletes is going to be. And so as a coach who is going to use the indoor rower a lot for their training, especially if you're in a colder climate, but ultimately you need that performance on the water. You can't neglect that neuromuscular component. And so going and saying, okay, well, how do we do that, and why do we do that? And so we're taking this example of if someone is pulling a 138 split for 2,000 meters at a 36 stroke rate, and they're using a 115 damper setting. If you're bringing that 115 down into your steady state, you're rowing it at an 18. If you're maintaining that same drive speed, then chances are your split is going to be several seconds below what is sustainable for you for a U2 steady state zone for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120 minutes, however long you're doing your steady state. So the adaptation that we want to do to change that is lower your damper setting for lower intensity training. And so in this instance, we might have an 85, a 90 damper setting or drag factor for that steady state. And so now that athlete is able to do an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours at an 18 stroke rate at that 158, which is what is sustainable for that athlete in that appropriate energy zone. But by decreasing the damper setting, you've allowed them to continue to have a fast leg drive, a leg drive that is comparable to their leg speed in a race situation or at a race pressure and cadence, while they're putting in that massive volume of aerobic training. And so in addition to getting these aerobic benefits of training for a long period of time in this aerobic energy zone, you're also constantly keeping your legs in that kind of firing pattern that you're going to need for a race situation. And then you're going to have a better transfer from one to the other. And that idea is gonna follow all the way from your active recovery to your utilization 2 to your utilization 1 to your AT to your transport to your lactate threshold training to your race training, and you're going to get a greater benefit for the amount of time that you're putting into that training session. So with that, you want to kind of use that damper setting like you would gears on a bike, and so that you're constantly adapting that damper setting and that specific drag factor to a range that's going to get that drive speed. And you can also think about that as a variable that's going to change within your workout. And so if you are doing that aerobic training session, let's say we're going for an hour, you might start your warm-up and have a lower damper setting for that warm-up period, and then move that damper up to get a different drag factor once you finish that warm-up and you've kind of settled into the core effort of that training session. And with that, even at that core effort, maybe between the 15-minute mark and the 60-minute mark in that training session, you might even want to increase that damper a little bit more and maybe raise that drag, 1 or 2 or maybe 5, at some point a third of the way or half the way or 2/3 of the way through, so that you can get a little bit more pressure into that split because you're looser, you're warmer, you've settled into that effort, but you don't necessarily want to just slam the legs faster in order to get that split. You're at a good leg speed and you have a good connection and acceleration curve, but you can produce a little bit more energy. Well, instead of increasing the stroke rates or increasing the drive speed, just increase that drag factor. And by doing that, you're going to be able to maintain those training factors that are already where you want them to be, but you're going to be able to get a little bit more power out of it and get a little bit more speed in that aerobic training session. And people just don't use this. I haven't encountered a lot of coaches that actively use the damper setting as a variable in the training. And more kind of frighteningly is so many athletes will just sit down for that training session on that erg and they won't even think to set that damper to where they need to hit that drag factor that's going to be ideal for that particular training session. And so I know for me in my own experience, the first thing I do when I sit down is turn on that drag factor, and figure out what it is and make sure it's in the range that I need it to be for that workout that I'm doing. And I actually, as far as equipment, I prefer that older PM2 monitor over the newer monitors because it allows you to see the drag factor while you're actually rowing. And so if I want to change that drag factor while I'm in the middle of a workout, I can do that. And I don't have to stop and reset the monitor to find that number. And that allows me to get a lot more out of those workouts. And so I would encourage people out there to start to think of that drag factor more actively when planning their training, and also recording your training. Because if I do a 60-minute steady state at an 18 and I'm pulling that 158 split, what's happening in your body and the adaptations that are being made are going to be very different if I'm using an 85 drag factor or a 115 drag factor or even a 140 drag factor. There's going to be a very big difference in terms of the muscular power component and the strength component of that workout in between each of those different drag factors. And since recording that training and understanding the training, the benefits, is so critical to ensuring a consistent pattern of adaptation and improvement, we really got to know what's happening there. And certainly even to compare training sessions from one to another, it's important to know, well, is the difference in my performance on those workouts due to a difference in damper setting, or is it due to some other variable? And in order to analyze and to adapt that training to ensure you're getting the best adaptation physiologically, you have to have that information. And so, let's have a little consideration for that, and maybe kind of with this conversation induce a little paradigm shift to thinking about that drag factor in a different way. And I want to follow this up with another video where I'm talking about more specifically in those numbers of what numbers to use, and how to kind of change it for your athletes, how to decide what is going to be the most effective damper setting for you. But for this video, really wanted to kind of induce you to think a little bit more critically about what are you doing with that damper setting and what specific drag factor are we using for that workout. So that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope this helped. If you guys have questions, please shoot them in the comments. If you guys want more content, hit that subscribe button so that you know when more videos are going out. And hope this has helped. Thanks, guys.